So it's 6 a.m. in Jerusalem, and today I want to go up to the Temple Mount. And in order to do so, before I do so, I have to do what's called toiveling, which is I have to go to a mikveh, special ritual bath, and jump in to remove as much ritual impurity as I can. So that's what I'm doing, and I haven't had my coffee yet, so it's kind of rough. But one of the reasons why I wanted to show you video of this was that people would understand that the Temple Mount is incredibly important to us, and it's not just a tourist site, and it's just not just a memory of the temples, which it is, or an aspiration of the upcoming temples, which it is. It's a part of our current consciousness. It's not a church. It's the only place that I do this, that I jump into the mikveh, that I try to cleanse myself and be on a higher level of purity in order to go there. There's no other place. Well, I do it for the high holidays, but that just shows you how important it is. So I just thought I'd share that. So I'm here at the entrance to the Temple Mount. I'm going to meet my dear friend Dr. MJ Kronfeld. I highly recommend, if you come to Jerusalem, to tour the Temple Mount with her. She's amazing. I highly recommend it. Like I said, I've been preparing for this, so this is a very special thing. You all be blessed. Okay, folks, I made it. Difficult to believe. I'm here with my friend MJ Kronfeld. I cannot recommend her tours enough. She is the person to take a tour on the Temple Mount. Say hi, MJ.
Good morning, Boker Tov from the Temple Mount.
Okay, I got here at 9 o'clock. This is her third time up this morning. If there's any person who knows every stone, every step, she's the person. And I'm here with Shimon. Shimon is her partner in crime.
Because it is a crime to pray
for praying on the Temple Mount
and learning
Torah on the Temple Mount. I think, this is my own theory, for years we were not allowed to pray. We were not allowed to even stand still and move our lips. People who burst out in tears, which I can totally understand, were taken off the Temple Mount. I think it was all the learning that was done that the Arabs don't care about that really bust open the doors. So this is a glimpse into Gan Eden. This is a glimpse into the Garden of Eden. Okay. More power. These are these policemen, and I will cry. They're standing between all of Israel and a tidal wave of hatred of the God of Israel. And they really are. They look relaxed. They're super trained. I've watched them train. I could never take part in their training. And the main thing is to keep it quiet, to keep it holy, to pave the way, to make it prepared to be a house of prayer for all nations. This is not, we conquered the Temple Mount once, we don't have to conquer it again. We have to turn it into a house of prayer for all nations. And that's what we're looking at. Am I crazy, MJ?
No, this is when we say that we will have the Beit HaMikdash in our time, we will, because you have to consider what that actually means. In our minds, we think about, when we talk about the Beit HaMikdash, we think about the building and the vessels and the service and the worship and the costumes and the all of it. But really, at the end of the day, the Beit HaMikdash has many forms. It takes on many dimensions, and it's a progression, just like the evolution of the Jewish people. And so the actual having the full kaboom, right, means that the Jewish people are at the height of their respect and power in the world. And so you have to imagine that we're not just going to have it all at once. We're going to have it gradually, piece by piece. But if we have a mizbeach, an altar, if we have sacrifice, then we have a Beit HaMikdash. That is the essence of what goes on up here, is prayer, service, sacrifice, and worship. And so we don't necessarily need to have all the buildings, all the vessels, everything as it would have been at the time of the Second Temple and the First Temple, or how it will be again one day when all is said and done. We just need to start step by step. So when I say we will have the Beit HaMikdash in our time, I know that we will, because we will have a mizbeach and we will have service. He's fine, thank you. He will have service and we will have sacrifice in our time. We are extremely close. How do I know this? We have a minyanin all day long up here. We are already praying. We celebrate all the holidays this year. Hanukkah candles were lit. There's often lulavs and branches shaken up here on the holidays, much to the dismay of the Israel police and the government, I'm sure. But far too much of what we are supposed to do up here is already happening. Ergo, I know, because I'm here every day, that we are simply steps away. We just have to understand, thank you, we're fine. We need to understand what it means to actually have a Beit HaMikdash. And what it means to realize the Beit HaMikdash.
I think it's funny. MJ is, I just want to make sure I'm still being recorded. MJ is a very mainstream, smart woman, but she can't be pushed around. So the police are telling us, go here, go there, and MJ's like, no, we're fine where we are. God bless her. And that's what
we're not breaking any rules,
we're not breaking any rules.
He has yellow stripes on his shoulder, which means he's still in training, and he's up here doing his part, and we are grateful for that. But the reason why the rest of the police officers wouldn't do that is because I am in fact not doing anything. And the problem is that the police don't prepare these young men and women who come up here for training and are up here for the first time for really what's going on. But why would they, right? Because all they know is that prayer is not permitted on the Temple Mount, and the Jews are not supposed to be praying up here.
Even though the law says that we should be allowed to pray.
And the Treaty with Jordan says that we are allowed to pray. So I think the problem is that right, listen, I get why they do it. You don't want to be walking around telling people that's the rule, but they're going to do it anyway. That wouldn't make sense. You're a police officer, your job is to enforce the rules. And then you bring people to a situation where the rules are of the utmost importance, and you tell them that those rules don't actually really apply. And that is why it's more important than ever for the Jews to secure the reality of the facts on the ground. The rules on the book say that we can't do X, Y, Z, but the facts on the ground are that we are doing X, Y, Z each and every single day. And the only way we will be able to secure our rights, the rights that we have now and the rights that we have hard fought and won, which is minyamin, which is prayer, which is shirim, is to make sure that the facts on the ground do match the rules in the books. So the very first step in realizing the Beit HaMikdash and then building the Beit HaMikdash is having the government recognize that prayer is happening up here and that they're permitting it, and that there's nothing that the Supreme Court has ruled that they cannot prevent us from doing it, and our treaty with Jordan says that we have the right to do it. And so the real enemy, unfortunately, in this situation is our government, which is sad because we have right now the most pro-Har Knesset ever in the history of Israel. We have more people who ascend, more people who are pro.
There were a lot of MKs that came up.
As I say, we have more who ascend, and we have more that are in favor of it, and we have more who wouldn't stand in the way of it, which is equally important. We have to remember that it's as important to convince our Jewish brothers and sisters, they don't have to come up with us, but don't prevent us from doing so. That is as equally important as bringing more Jews up here, getting more pro-Knesset members elected to office, and starting to make sure that we are changing the books on the ground by legislating and activating our Knesset members. This year already is a victory.
Can I jump in, MJ?
Yeah, sure.
I want to say, first of all, you talk 3 times faster than most people.
Sorry.
You think 5 times faster than most people. You think 10 times faster than me. The reason why I came up today, came all the way down from the Golan, is Ramadan.
And that's why that's good. Other years past, we've not been permitted to be up here during the first week, and so this is already a victory. The fact that we've been informed that there'll be no closures for Jews this week is an incredible victory, and I 100% give that victory to our dear friend MK Itamar Ben-Gvir. I believe in the bottom of my heart that he is fully behind us, even though he's been given a really hard time about his Temple Mount responsibilities from the current government and the coalition unity government, whatever unity may mean, because I don't know how you say unify with a person like Gantz. But I do believe that it is Itamar's doing that we have this week for the first time in many years been able to come up here during Ramadan. And as you can see, the restrictions have remained in place since the war began, which is generally we do not have large amounts of our Muslim brothers and sisters up here while we're up here during the 5 hours a day, 5 days a week that we're committed up here. With that said, I don't agree with that policy. We can't stand against us being banned or restricted if we are going to ban our brothers and sisters. One day when we build the temple, we'll have a place to go. Everyone will be welcome as long as they, are God-fearing and don't kill Jews. But I don't see the point in creating restrictions. I know the government feels it's important, but it's interesting contrary.
When you talk about restrictions. Jews are heavily restricted, which has lightened up. The first time I went up to the Temple Mount, I had to give them...
It depends on the day, the weather, the police officer in charge, and how hard I sneeze.
No, but back then it was always, they had a blacklist, people who were not allowed in.
But there are days.
You had to give in your ID card, and they would do a background check before you went up.
We still do that.
Every
once
but
in
a
a while,
lot less. No one went up back then.
I've been coming up here for 3 years. Everyone knows who I am, and every once in a while, randomly, they'll just tell me to give them my ID. Of course, I refuse because I've committed no crime, nor do they have the right to take my ID for any reason for me visiting a public site. But I can tell you that it still happens to me at least every couple months. I'll just walk and be like, we need your ID. I'm like, no, you don't need my ID. But thank you for asking. So kind.
They're checking if you're old enough to drink alcohol.
Listen, and I am well over the drinking age, I promise you this.
I also, if you looked at the news yesterday, they made it seem like there was a war starting on the Temple Mount.
I got here this morning, I was like, where's everybody?
Right. And I think there's an interest, they always say, in the media, what bleeds leads. So they're kind of looking to incite.
I believe the media has been a big player.
The Muslims, they do have the Indian where they get very upset if there are any restrictions at all placed on them. So
I'm going to let you pray. This is a moment of prayer. You're welcome to record
pray.
it.
I have to pray for my sister who's not feeling well.
What's your name?
Bat Miriam Rachel. Okay, so now's the time for prayer. There is prayer going on up here. I think just from this blessed moment that I'm having up here, it really emphasizes the difference. It's not Jew against Arab, it's not Jew against Muslim, it's not, what it is the people who want this blessed bubble of peace in a chaotic world, the source of peace, the source of serving Hashem. That's what we want. And here we are, a place where I get to meet my dear friends, like my friend Abraham Truitt. This is an amazing man. He's the spokesman for, and we have Ariel. What's his first name? השם שלך שוב באנגלית? השם הראשון שלך?
השם שלי באנגלית זה אורי אריאל.
Uri Ariel is an amazing power and force in the Knesset, which is why he's here on the Temple Mount. We need to see more of that. We need to see more Jewish leaders on the Temple Mount. This is Avram Truitt. He's the spokesman for Beyadenu. And I'm very blessed to know him and very blessed to meet him up here in the most blessed place.
For those of you watching, I'm just so sorry about the crowds up here. There's just so many crowds of people who are celebrating Ramadan. I had to push past them to get to Eliyahu. That's why I'm a little bit late. I apologize. I was just shoving through women, children, men everywhere who are just, coming up here in honor of their religious holiday. As you guys have seen on this live stream, and this is going to force everyone to watch the live stream as well. There's just so many people up here, we had to push past them. So I just apologize in advance.
For those who don't get it, that was sarcasm. This is the most blessed peace I've ever felt. It's quiet. You can feel the Kedusha, you can feel the holiness. Every single person who is standing here came here with the full intention to honor the holiness of the center of creation, God's chosen place. For the God of Israel chose this place for us to serve Him. The word, what we have here is the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah literally means the dwelling, the presence of God. And the temple was a big living room. It had a kitchen, and it was your place to come and spend some time with God, maybe watch the Super Bowl.
Eat some roast lamb.
Eat some roast lamb, have a few crackers and nachos, and I'm being jestful, but thank God that I can spend some time with Tati, with my father. Just spend some time visiting him. Every father knows that the most blessed thing in the world is when your kids come home for Shabbat, your grown kids, and I know I can ask my kids, come sit on my lap, even though they're fully grown. Come sit at the table with me, and that's what we're doing. Abraham, you've been doing. Thank God, Beyadenu has been. How long has Beyadenu been pushing it?
For the last 8 years, we've been called Beyadenu, but for a very long time now, for longer than I've been around here, pushing for the Temple Mount to be under Jewish sovereignty, to return Jewish sovereignty to the site, so we can have just exactly what Eliyahu was describing.
And at first it seemed the impossible task, and very few Jews were coming up, and we were not allowed to do anything, and they would check us top to bottom as if we were the world's worst terrorists getting on an airplane. And now it's sweet. It's very sweet. And everyone's like, Ramadan. No. It's very sweet, and God willing, it'll stay that way. And thanks a lot to Beyadenu, who did the work and laid the groundwork. I will say Beyadenu is going to take it one more step, and when I heard about it, I don't think people understand. I'll give a little backdrop. In 1967, Israel unified Jerusalem, and it was the Jews were finally, for the first time in hundreds and hundreds of years, set foot on the Temple Mount. And it was thanks to the IDF, and they put up an Israeli flag, and I think the next day Moshe Dayan said, take it down. The same thing happened in Hebron, but because Rav Goren said, no, this is a Jewish place, it stayed a Jewish place, but no one could say that for here. And Beyadenu was planning to do something which I'm almost afraid to talk about it. It's so big and it's so wonderful. Do you want to tell us what it is?
You can look at it one way. It's not such a big deal. We want to bring the flag of Israel up to the Temple Mount during Yom Ha'atzmaut, and there's no better time to do this. There's no better time in history to do this after Israel suffered one of the worst terrorist attacks in its history, and we really see who our enemies are, who our true enemies are, and they're represented up here in the people who are currently governing the Temple Mount in the Jordanian Waqf. For their biggest goal is to restrict Jews from being Jewish up here, and so they'll try to remove anything that remotely signifies us as Jewish.
I remember one of my first stories was a Christian tourist came up and he had an Israeli flag on his backpack, and he got beat up like crazy by the Muslims up here. You're not allowed to come up here with anything Jewish. I don't think you can even come up with any Christian objects.
Christian symbols are also banned.
Really? No crosses?
No crosses that are visible crosses.
I've never seen it, but I've been told that it's very common. They have special kind of embarrassing sweatpants clothing for Christians with a big wide yellow stripe to identify them as Christians. This is not a Jewish Muslim thing. This is a House of Prayer for All Nations thing.
I'm into that.
So not only is it forbidden to be Jewish on the Temple Mount, it's forbidden to be Israeli. And as we know, they don't want to recognize 67. They want to turn back the clock to our worst times in history. So, and one of them being pre-1967. They want the borders, it's like they want to hit reset. I'm sorry, we're moving forward to Geulah, we're moving forward to redemption. Part of that is the blessed state of Israel as the culmination of prophecy, the culmination of our thousands of years of prayer for a Jewish state to come back from the diaspora. And now that we're here, they want to say no. And that's why when I saw your announcement, Beyadenu, we're putting up an Israeli flag. We're going to carry an Israeli flag onto the Temple Mount. It's not to start a fight. It's to say this is the prophecy. Here we are. We can't deny it. I want to point out also the Golden Dome. It was not a mosque. The Golden Dome was a shrine to our temple. Okay, the real mosque is the dark gray dome on the south end, as far away as they could possibly be, and to turn their backs on our temple. So the problem is that any religion is a refutation of Islam being the final prophecy, the final revelation of God in the world. And that's why the recognition of any religion other than Islam is problematic to Islam. Judaism does not have that. That's why our prayer is for a house of prayer for all nations. That's why when Solomon dedicated the temple, he said to God, may the prayer of the foreigner be accepted here. And that's what we're trying to bring back here. I'm not trying to be pluralistic. I'm trying to be biblical.
Well, I'll take it back one level to pluralism as well. Why we chose the Israeli flag and not a prayer book or not like a symbol of the menorah or something that we want to bring up here during Yom Ha'atzmaut is that the Israeli flag unifies not just Jews that are living in Israel. It unifies Arabs that are living in Israel that enjoy the same benefits, enjoy better benefits than Muslims in most places around the Middle East. And it also represents Christians that live in Israel. And it represents the nation, the people of Israel. And our state and our flag should be present in a place that is holy to all three religions, I have to say, and that should be here on the Temple Mount. And the fact that it's banned is showing that there are forces of evil at work and trying to prevent this flag from being here, prevent that representation of freedom for all people, for really truly a house of prayer for all nations. There are people working against this.
I just realized, and I have to correct you, there is an Israeli flag up here.
Oh, yeah?
And it is the...
I'll let you be right this time.
Okay. אני יכול לצלם קצת את הכתף שלך? את הכתף? If you see our amazing giborim, our soldiers and our policemen, they do have an Israeli flag. This one says Chavot Barzel, the swords of iron, which is what we're the war we're currently fighting. So there are Israeli flags up here. They're just incredibly rare, and I can't have one. So this is really so what Beyadenu is going to do is really an amazing thing. For the first time since 1967, to actually have an Israeli flag on the Temple Mount. It's actually, I think, a recognition of what happened in '67, which so many people tried to deny. We're going to continue our tour, and you see, I don't know if it comes through on the film, but when I first came up here, I remember I was 17 years old. I went to the Kotel and I nearly passed out because it was so intense and so powerful. And when I came up to the Temple Mount for the first time, it was 10 times that. I think that you can really see the holiness here. And if you can't, maybe you need a better pair of glasses. It's really, it's very special here. בוקר טוב, אהובי. מה שלומנו?
עמנו כשלום עמנו, אמר חיים גורי לפני 76 שנים. זה ביטוי שמבטא את המצב. ברוך השם, מתקדמים.
אם מותר לשאול, אתה עולה הרבה?
לא?
לא. אבל אתה פה סתם, לא חג, לא...
כל יום חג, ברוך השם, שמחים לעלות להר הבית.
כן, וברוך השם אנחנו זכינו להיות בתקופה שאפשר.
כן.
This is Avram. So what we're coming up on is this area is this is Shar Rachamim. And Shar Rachamim, when Israel came here in 1967, there was one mosque on the entire Temple Mount, and that was the dark gray dome Al-Aqsa, which literally means the further mosque. There's a lot to say about that. I'd rather ask Dr. Kedar about that, Dr. Mordechai Kedar. This was not a mosque. It was shut down a dozen years ago because they were using it as a Hamas headquarters. And what happened was a couple years ago, the Muslims came and reopened it as a mosque against the law of Israel. And here it is, a mosque. There are now, I think, 5 mosques up on Temple Mount, if you include the Marwani Shul. And if you see, you have to go down there. That's a mosque. We're not allowed down there, of course. There's something...
But they are.
But they are. And there's something very special I want to show you. If you look, and this is what you call the Golden Gate. If you see those tarpaulins, there's wood under there. That wood has been laying there since the early 1900s when there was an earthquake and the roof of the Aqsa Mosque fell. And they rebuilt it and they put the old timbers from the old roof right here, and we're not allowed to touch it, but some Jews managed to get some timbers, and they discovered that the timbers date back to the second and perhaps even the first temple.
First temple.
So those timbers lying down there and rotting that we can't touch.
Somebody who's got a piece of them in Kiryat Arba.
I've heard of them. They had to we have gotten pieces of them.
You may know a guy who got a piece.
You know, when the time comes, I know where there is a stash of tons of temple spice. Okay. Kohanim are ready. The red heifers are almost ready. I did a video about that went out yesterday, and thank God a lot of people are watching it. So we are really moments away from amazing things happening in the world, which is why the dark side is working double overtime to try to stop real blessedness from entering into the world. You want blessedness? Be nice to your fellow man, hug your children, be sweet. If you really want to come close to Abba, to Tati, come to Israel and pray in Jerusalem. And God willing, that'll do it. That'll tip the scales.
Well, it's more than just praying in Jerusalem. It's praying at the Temple Mount.
Yes.
For hundreds of years, Jews have stood at the wall, which is like standing in the basement of your building, holding on to the pipes for the plumbing, asking your little brother to flush his poop, and feeling, I feel God when you just feel poop going down the drains. It's just a wall. And the reason why there has been divine presence and Buddha in it is because for centuries, our Muslim brothers and sisters and our Christian brothers and sisters, who we love and adore, told us that we couldn't go up because they know better than we know the power of this place. And that's just the story of Israel. It's of Jewish people. We underestimate our own power and our own grace and our own chosenness by God, and we ignore the places that He gave us. And our enemies and our friends know far better. And they create a reality of facts on the ground that supersede our own and take from us what is our birthright. And for centuries, they told us you can only pray at the wall. And now we have created generation upon generation of Jews who believe you can't go up. We don't know where the temple stood.
Right.
My rabbi said, my mom said, my dad said,
MJ is hinting at something that I wanted to say, which was, okay, it's not the Arabs. It's not the Arabs. The people who are saying that Jews can't go up, are rabbis.
Us. It's us.
Our rabbis.
And people say, well, there's all of these rabbis who say you can't go. Well, you know, there's a list of 200 rabbis greatest rabbis who say you can. Rabbi Akiva came. Rambam came. We can go back. I mean, we have been coming up here since Adam, who built the first altar. Okay, Noah, after he parked his car in Turkey, he walked on over here.
Melchizedek.
Right? I mean,
Melchizedek was here even before Avram.
Broken chain from the day of creation to today of Jews ascending to this place. Do not let anybody tell you otherwise. And if you are not sure, we have a wonderful halakha guide on our website, hiandthehar.com/halakha, where it is made for anybody to read. And if you have more questions,
I also wanted to emphasize, MJ. First of all, MJ, I love the fact that you're not a typical Temple Mount activist. You're not a religious man who wears sandals with socks.
I prefer my new white coat.
MJ is as nice as she is. I know for a fact that she's brilliant.
I thought you were going to say brutal. I thought brutal was
you are also brutal, but you are brilliant.
Don't tell anybody about my fierceness. They're just going to try to step at me, bro.
And she also leads tours, if you're a Christian and you come to Jerusalem, she would love to show you around our home.
I would take my Muslim brothers and sisters if they would let me, but they won't. I tried.
I know you would. I know you would.
I wanted to come. I was like, just tell them that you're Jewish. You guys are just like Sephardic. and like, they couldn't lie. They couldn't do it because they're all
our
cousins. From America.
Our cousins.
Yeah. The
now,
Pakistani friends are like, oh no, we can't do it.
So, MJ, do you know? Can we say that this is where the Holy of Holies stood?
So yes, right in front of us, and on the other side we'll have a much better look. But right in front of it, underneath that dome is the rock, the foundation rock from whence the world was created. And we're actually sitting on the northern side. So if you were to approach the Holy of Holies from this side, on this side you would see the rings where they would keep the animals for slaughter and for sacrifice. A very important part of the temple, which is very misunderstood, and which I, as a lifelong vegetarian, I look forward to the day we have sacrifice because. A whole band of progressive vegan rabbis will have you believe that it is cruel and inhumane, when no, in fact, it is among the most important.
It's like a Thanksgiving turkey when you come up here.
This is going to be the coolest place. It's free kosher barbecue, right? Incense, guys playing harp. Who doesn't have harp in the morning?
So, what I wanted to say is, if you look around, this is what the Arabs would call an invasion of the Temple Mount, and it's really just sweet people coming up here to bask and to sit on their father's lap. That's what we're doing. And that's what we want to do. And usually Ramadan Jews are prohibited from coming up. But thanks to the incredible efforts of the Israeli police and an unprecedented decision by the Israeli government, Jews are being permitted up. Unfortunately, it took a tragedy of October 7th, which is really a turning point in Jewish history. So things have changed. It took, I'm wearing my Crocs and it's a little wet, so.
I got you.
If Avram's got me, I'm got. Okay, that's good. But Jews are up here, and the media would like us to think, and wanted us to think, that Ramadan was, and I wrote an article about it, how Ramadan was dangerous and it was going to be tension, definitely focused on the Temple Mount. And here we see blessed peace breaking out in the Middle East, starting in the Temple Mount, just by allowing Jews to come up and be here and pray, be here with their Father. And it's a house of prayer, and Arabs are not being prohibited. Arabs are allowed up here. And peace broke out. It's amazing how peace broke out and no one's reporting it except for me. Thank God. So here we are. This is not special effects. This is not AI. I am really on the Temple Mount. That is really the Dome of the Rock, which is looking kind of shabby. It looks like they need to put on another coat of gold. But here we are, and it's blessedly quiet and peaceful. Thank God.
I'm very certain it's what the Minhalet said.
But today, I'm super confused. I haven't had time to actually read the news about this subject, and I'm just super confused about when we can ascend, what hours.
The Minhalet said no restrictions this year.
I think they're figuring it out as they go along.
This week they're going to do a reassessment.
And there's no restrictions on Arab Israelis either.
There are no restrictions Arab Israelis, but there are restrictions potentially on Palestinians and
from Judea and Samaria.
Right.
Judea and Samaria.
I believe, and even then, the restrictions are only on young men. Old men and women and children from Judea and Samaria are permitted up here. I believe. Are we saying that?
Yes, I mean that's what we're seeing women and children now. So that's very unusual for this time. I mean, it was usual before October 7th. It's very unusual since October 7th.
Right.
So, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just so happy to be here. This is this is the prophecy that children will be playing in the streets of Jerusalem and old people will be sitting in peace and happiness. And thank God that prophecy also extends to the Temple Mount and to the Old City and to Jerusalem and to Judea and Samaria and to New York and Los Angeles and even Gaza, God willing, one day.
But not Florida.
Florida, you never know.
No, Florida, you never know. It could take a while.
But here we are on Ramadan on the Temple Mount, and it's so crazy. Peace is breaking out. And who's going to report it? Who's going to report?
This guy.
I'll report it, but everyone thinks I'm a little bit off anyway, even though I'm usually more right than wrong.
7, 10, 30, 12, 30, 14, always.
Really?
So,
Every day.
yep, peace is breaking out.
I won't argue.
I don't date you. I don't push these things.
The version above this one, which is just a handle brush. Like,
Okay, so we have questions. What
I
kind
haven't picked out the stroller that I'll get one day though. It's gonna be solid.
solid gold stroller.
So this is great. MJ is wondering about which shawl she's going to wear to the temple, and I'm wondering what's going to be the soundtrack. Okay. I'm thinking something on some Aerosmith would be nice. Some AC/DC.
Aerosmith.
Yeah.
I love it.
Walk this way. Or Sweet Emotion. But I mean, okay, so in the comments, let's see which soundtrack should come up to the Temple Mount. Okay.
I'd say ABBA, just because of the name, but I mean, that's not quite the songs.
ABBA would be good. Or I don't know. You know something? I became a very strong follower of Rabbi Shlomo Karlibach because I think his followers were the Southern Baptists of the Jewish world. Because they had that music thing going on.
They were working it, yeah.
So, and Rabbi Shlomo, in most of his tunes, what you think of when we sing the prayers for the entrance of Shabbos, and mostly Rabbi Shlomo tunes. So, yeah. So this is us. There's a minhag. There's a tradition to walk backwards as we leave because we don't want to hurry straight out. This is really an experience.
It's like this, and there's no reason.
I don't know how many times I've been up. Certainly not nearly as much as MJ. She's been up 3 times today. But it's always special. It's always very blessed. It's always very holy. You don't just come up here and chew gum. It's a special experience. It's not just a tourist site. It's an experience. Jews and Christians. This is where Jesus walked. This is where David danced. This is where King David came and prayed. This is the place. King David bought it. It was a threshing floor where he saw brotherly love. He was a little bit too warlike, so he was not Zocha. He did not merit to build the temple, but he certainly.
That is not true. The reason why.
Right.
The reason why David didn't build the temple is because God said to David, if you build the temple, it will be too perfect and I'll never be able to destroy it because you are the one that I love the most and you did the most for me. And I can't let you build it because then I'll never be able to destroy it because I love you. I'm going to let your son build it because he's not as great as you are. He's a little bit, he's a good kid, but he's not you. And that's the reason. We like to think that it was because of the blood that he shed. No, God wanted the blood to be shed. And David abided by God's commandments and he shed all that blood and God said, I love you so much. I would never destroy anything you create. And I know the Jewish people will sin and I will have to destroy the temple, and ergo I cannot let you build it.
So you heard it from Rav M.J. Kronfeld.
Rebbitzin. The rabbinate.
Rebbitzin Dr. M.J. Kronfeld, who sometimes scares me. But she always tells the truth.
The great Rav Kahana, blessed memory, teaches us that the blood is the greatest gift that David ever gave God, and that is why he wasn't permitted to build the temple.
So that about Tzaddikim.
That was the real reason why we say it was because of the blood.
So I can't stress it enough. Some of the holiest people I know are the police who guard. They're very holy people, and they can't even express their love of the Temple Mount. They're holding it all back in order to allow us to come up, and that is beyond words. Beyond words. Yeah. Anyway, that was the trip around.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Comments, if you want me to do it again, I will gladly do it again for even the slimmest of excuses. But this was the Ramadan peace breaking out on the Temple Mount in a totally unexpected way. Thanks for joining us. Be blessed, y'all.